I think I went to a
Minor league?
a Blackhawks game with RJ
Oh yeah,
in Chicago one time, but I think I did that. Maybe I'm making that up. Probably making it up. But yeah, I've been in a minor league.
yeah. Um, as you know, not like the biggest hockey fan ever, but playoff hockey is way different.
Yeah,
Like,
because don't they play it more like they do in minors where they
oh,
got
they're
something
all
to play
out.
for, so yeah,
Yeah,
they're not holding anything back.
yeah. It gets to be a little bit like postseason in baseball, where in regular season baseball, it's just like it sort of drones on because there's a million
Right.
and a half games, and then postseason, it's like every pitch matters.
Yeah.
Like it's a totally different game. It's like that.
Yeah.
Every possession matters, every foul matters, all the stuff.
Yeah. So
So
did they win? Hurricanes win?
no, no, not to become a sports analyst. The Hurricanes were on 11 days of rest because they got through their last series so easily
Yeah.
and played the Canadians. And they had just come off a 7 game series that went into overtime in the seventh game. And so that was my prediction. Not to say look at how right I was, but I was like,
But look how right I was.
yeah, I said, listen, we're gonna lose the first period, but if we can weather the storm, it could be a game. Well,
Right.
coming out of the first period, it was 4-1. We were losing, and that's really about all they needed to be able to sit back and play a little more defense and sort of hang on to their lead. And then it got out of hand in the third.
Yeah.
I
Well,
used to not like the period thing in hockey, having 3 periods. Like, can you just make it like 4 quarters and be normal, or like 2 halves? But then, as you're there, this dawned on me last night. It's almost like 2 halftimes. It's really sort of nice,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
to get up and go get a beer and go to the
Yep.
bathroom or whatever.
Yep.
So it's all in
My
perspective, right?
my favorite is when you're trying to teach your kids how that stuff works, right? So like when my son asked me when he's growing up learning sports, how many quarters are there in this game?
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything.
How many halves? How many quarters?
Right. Right. It's fractions. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless it's periods, then it's just an odd number of nonsense.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Or you get some ambiguous sport like, not ambiguous, but some annoying sport like soccer that has a clock that you don't know how much time's on it when it goes into extra time. That makes no sense to me. There are a lot of sports that make no sense to me in
Yeah.
terms of the rules. Like my daughter playing lacrosse, and it's the only sport I've ever seen that you can throw the ball out of bounds and it's
Oh
still
yeah.
your ball. It
Right.
makes zero sense. Every other sport, like if you throw the ball out of bounds, it's the other team's ball.
Right. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
Still
have.
can't figure it out. And it's not every time. Like sometimes
Well.
it's whoever's closest to the ball or to the out of bounds when it goes out of bounds. I can't even figure it out. I got one more season to try and figure it out, I guess.
Yeah. That's what. Hot take, I guess. Like watching some of these guys last night, like the athleticism and the size. I mean, they're professional athletes. It's just impressive
Yeah,
to see
some of them
like
look
how.
like football players on skates.
Yeah, like to see how agile and fast they are, but then also like to watch their stick work and like how uh, how great their hands are.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like there's only a few sports that really you have to be elite with like all four limbs, basically to be if that makes any sense. Um,
Yeah, it's an odd way to put it, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, hockey, baseball, and lacrosse are the you know the ones I came up with. I guess you could maybe throw basketball in there, but you don't have to be elite with your hands. Most of them are, but like it's like equating to me. It's like being an
Well, I mean,
incredible shooter.
it depends on what level you're at. If you're talking pro, yeah. If you're talking amateur stuff like what
Yeah,
we did, then no.
yeah,
Obviously, we're proof of that, that
yes,
basketball doesn't count.
yeah, yeah. Um, But it is crazy, like just see the level of athleticism with some of these guys.
Yeah. Well, that was like when I was in playing college football, and the Panthers would show up
Oh yeah,
at our campus, and we'd have to wait on. And just even walking next to those guys, it was like, I mean, I'm looking straight up. I remember walking to the field with Wesley Walls. You remember him, the tight
oh yeah,
end?
yeah,
And the dude was just enormous. And I was
yeah,
like, where do these people exist? I never see them walking around on the street.
yeah,
Maybe you do in Charlotte, but I don't see them anywhere in South Carolina.
yeah. No, I don't know. There are a ton of like Julius Pepper stories like that, and obviously he was a freak of freaks, but
Yeah.
uh, in the best way possible. But man, the size and athleticism of him. I'll tell you a funny story that a buddy of mine told me is like he knew this. His high school running back that ended up playing in the NFL, not like incredibly successfully, but I think there's a preseason game, and he got the ball and he was just trying to make it to the sideline and cut up and get a couple yards, and
Mm.
he was fast. So he was like a 4.3 guy, kind of guy, like super fast, and he was going as fast as he could. He could see like the shadow of a guy that was basically just keeping up with him, sidestepping the whole way, and it ended up being Julius Peppers. And just as soon as he hit the corner and tried to turn up, he just got ear holes. And he
Yeah.
was like, he goes, that's when I knew like these guys are just different. Like I thought I could outrun him, just like I've outrun people my whole life. Can't
Yeah.
do it here.
Yep.
And he wasn't even running full. He's like, how is this even possible?
Yeah. It baffles me. It's amazing. Um, but I guess that's why they get paid
Yeah.
to entertain us
Well, it's also
because
fun to
it's
watch.
nothing we can conceive.
Yep. Yep.
Well, you want to jump into something today?
Let's do it.
What do you feel like what topics we want to address? I know, we've kind of talked through, our leadership and creating our teams and um, sort of establishing a baseline for your business or growing it. But I mean, one of the things that I think of when, you know, some of the things that we've talked about are, and this may be right up your alley too, like why, we're talking about growing our business. Well, what are the shortcomings of, why is it your team selling? Why aren't you penetrating the markets that are there to be made?
Yep.
Um, and then actually, converting, like how do you convert, like marketing efforts convert to sales, right? You don't want to just be out there putting your company out there wasting time knocking on doors or whatever the case may be, but actually converting that to business, those
Mm-hmm.
efforts. um I don't know if any of those jump out at you.
Yeah. A lot of thoughts there. Obviously, I think um, not to be too general here, but just having a congruent marketing strategy. And what I mean by that is what I see a lot of times is you have systems, you have a product or service that you're trying to market and push, and there's there's a lot of different styles of selling. And what I mean by that is like you can, capital sales versus relationship sales,
hmm
door to door. Like understand exactly what the best system of sales is. And I think that's where I see a lot of folks sort of miss the boat. They think of sales as just like one thing. Um, and obviously, you can have telemarketers, you can have a billboard, you
right.
can you can have a very dedicated sales force that is the majority of your business. So it can look like a lot of different things. And understanding you have like not only those options, but really that responsibility to make sure that you're setting your sales force up for success, and like you have the right kind of sales force. Is I
Yeah,
guess
I
what I'm
mean,
trying to say.
to me, the thing that always sticks out is, my mentality when I started out in public accounting, typical boring CPA. you know, but it wasn't, and I go all these different events, these different, social events that were, maybe it was a mixer with a law firm or construction groups or
Yep.
banks, just networking type functions or non, fundraising stuff.
Hmm.
And when I first started, I would just sit there and I'd be like, I don't know what to tell these people. I don't know, I'm not a sales guy. I don't know, and as I got
I would spin
more,
that and say the positive version of that is you were observing and calculating. But go ahead. You can
maybe,
say you were
maybe,
just sitting there mouth breathing. I know that's the story you're trying to tell.
yeah,
I'm not trying to
yeah.
screw that up, but
But no, I mean, so as I evolved, as I progressed, I should say, I'm not sure that I evolved, but I progressed through my
your
career.
knuckles stop dragging.
Yeah, I got a little bit more, I guess, knowledgeable in terms of what I was doing, right? I'm not a sales guy. I don't need to go sell. We have business development people. Well, I was completely wrong about that because what I did every day going into my clients is I sold myself to my clients.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is, if they didn't like working with me directly, then there was a good chance they were going to go find another firm.
Right.
So I had to build those relationships and then focus on selling myself. And that just came down to establishing, a relationship, getting
Yeah.
people to open up. It doesn't have to be, hey, I'm Drew and I sell product A. Do you want to buy it?
Yeah.
Like nobody buys that,
Right.
right? And
But I do think
everything.
it's daunting for a lot of people to think about how to sell themselves.
Well, yeah, it is. But
Like, oh
the
shit,
mentality,
I don't even know
if the
what to say
mentality,
there either.
yeah, but if the mentality is not like I've got to push this product,
Yeah.
but I've got to, I want to build my network of business associates, people that I associate with on a business level, and that means going out and having a beer, being able to, how do you make friends, right?
Yeah.
It's essentially what you're doing, but it's on a business level. Is
Yeah.
you're making friends,
Yeah.
and if you don't know how to make friends, then I guess mommy and daddy didn't hug you enough when you were growing up. But um, that is not anything. That's not a skill set that anybody has to teach you, right?
Yeah. You can
And
get better at it.
that doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert either. I'm not extroverted per
Yeah.
se.
Right.
If I'm in a comfortable environment, I'll go talk to anybody. And so that was my biggest thing was recognize it. I had that sort of eureka moment of recognizing like, hey, I don't have to go sell, you know, advisory services or, tax services or whatever it is, I want them to want to work with me and
Right.
say, well, what do you do? You know,
Right.
oh, well, I do this.
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I need somebody who does that.
Right.
And that's essentially, you know, in your world of, specializing in medical sales, like that, those surgeons are buying you, right?
Yeah.
They're, they don't care. A knee replacement, a knee is a knee,
Sure.
right? Or an implant is an implant. At the end of the day, it's all good technology, but who do they want to be stuck in an OR with for 4 hours?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
the same thing goes with, copier sales or payroll services, or,
Yeah.
it all comes down to your communication skills. And how you can, like, I can't stand sales people. Really, I
Yeah. Me
can't.
neither.
Like if you come across as salesy, like even if it's on a social level
Yeah.
and it's just all these empty compliments and all this stuff that I'm just like, "God, you are so fake. Like just be
Yep.
real. Like make mistakes. Sometimes you can sound like an idiot, and it becomes endearing to people. It's where you're not like, okay, I got to say the exact right thing every
Right.
time or I'm going to look like an idiot.
No
Look
one
like an
is
idiot.
impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I always use the analogy of the waiter or waitress who comes to get your order without writing anything down. Inevitably, like I feel like 90% of the time they fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not impressed with your trick. I wasn't impressed from the beginning, but now that I have the wrong food in front of me, I'm very less impressed.
Well, especially when you show up with your family and you got 10
Yeah.
people or 6 people sitting at the table and you're like, I guarantee you're going to mess this up because my kids like some specific stuff excluded from everything they order.
Yeah. Yeah. You just extended my my dining experience for no reason.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think you're dead on there, and I feel like a lot of folks just try to overcomplicate it. Um, and while you do need to be a subject matter expert in whatever it is that you're trying to push, I find like it's sort of the basics where people fail, and that's a big one. Like,
Yeah.
all right, you're selling widget A. Well, tell me about widget A, and then all of a sudden they start fumbling over themselves. Like, hang on, like this is if you can't do this, you can't you don't even know your product. You can't sell it.
But it's that and it's I mean that's ultimately key, right?
Like,
To have
I
it
mean
that's the only way you're going to have confidence to go sell anything.
that is
But
the definition of 101.
the ultimate element I think is salespeople, regardless if you want to call yourself a salesperson or not, everybody who is working for or driving a company is a salesperson. You may
Absolutely.
not be selling direct, but they're buying your leadership. They're buying whatever it is that your company's offering. So you have the key that I've found is you got to shut up, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to listen. You got to hear what these prospects need, and not trying to overwhelm them with all this information and say, "Look at how much I know," and it's just verbal diarrhea, and halfway through the you can tell people are just looking all over the place. Like, is this guy going to shut up? Because I don't care anymore.
Right.
Because half the stuff you're talking about is irrelevant to them because you haven't listened to what they actually need. Let them prompt you. Let them ask the questions and be able to nail those questions when they ask them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, just like you said, everyone's a salesman. I think the more interesting thing, I guess, in my mind anyway, is always trying to figure out the best avenues to go after sales. You're talking about social functions and mixers and whatever business. I don't know your community uh, get-togethers,
Hmm.
like that kind of stuff, like that. It all
Yeah,
depends on the
civic
business.
groups and yeah.
Yeah, and it's like are there different society meetings relevant to your business, and are they worth it? Like that, those are the things that are if it costs 10 grand to go to a place where a lot of your potential customers would be and like set up a booth and that kind of stuff. Like, is that worth it for you and your business or not? Like,
Hmm.
and you can talk about basic ROI, and this is sort of the art of sales. I think from your traditional CFO seat, your traditional CFOs will push back a lot on marketing because it's
Yeah.
very very difficult to look at a specific ROI that you get out of it, and
Right.
sometimes
You can't give me a direct correlation that says I put this billboard up on this street
yeah
and that directly increased sales. Unless you're tracking it with some kind of QR code where every time somebody goes to buy your product, you can see the source of where they found your
yeah
ad.
yeah and from the sales side of things, the argument in my mind anyway, like the billboard's a great example. It's just because it's so difficult to track um, the return there. But sometimes it's a 2% increase in the way your product or service is viewed, and that's the 2% that actually push them over the edge,
Hmm.
right? It's hard to know. Like it's a combination of things that trigger people to buy and businesses to buy. So, uh, which ones are the most impactful? It totally depends on your business. Um, totally depends on your business. Like I'm not gonna. Clearly, IBM thinks that, and Mercedes are the two that I think of right off the rip. They think spending those millions of dollars advertising with the Masters every year is worthwhile.
Hmm.
Um, it's interesting, right? It's like, all right, well, they're those two are very different businesses. Uh, like not, I would assume like IBM mainly sells to corporations for lack of better terms, and Mercedes mainly sells to individuals. So they're hitting two very different demographics,
Hmm.
and they both find it worthwhile. I don't know. I think it's interesting, and that's obviously way more marketing than sales, but
Well, I think it
sort
goes
of
into your overall business approach, right? So
yeah,
as we talk to our audience about, and most of the people that are probably listening aren't the boots on the ground salespeople. Now, you may be if you're a
right,
small operation,
yeah,
you may have a couple other support people that are out there with you, and you're pushing the product. But I think it goes into the mentality of your training and what you're looking for, and then how to correct missteps, right? Like if you've got some guy who's just pushing a product or some girl that's, constantly just that's their opening line is this is what I sell,
yeah,
then you got to be able to recognize this is why you're not as successful. This is why you're not penetrating because most
that's
salespeople they
also a
eat they,
very
they eat they eat what they
interesting
kill,
point.
right?
Yeah,
Most salespeople eat what they kill. So if you're allowing your sales team not to succeed, they're going to move on to the next opportunity where they can make more money.
yeah. I mean, obviously, sales management is like such a vast uh, topic, but I'll just put this little nugget in here. I think that most people's missteps when trying to manage a sales team is that they're managing the wrong things.
Like what?
So
What are the wrong things to manage
controversial,
in your sales team?
yeah, controversial take, and this is sort of the difference in salespeople and I would just say generally office people. Office folks are a dead set 9 to 5, right? Salespeople, by and large, obviously, it changes depending on what you're doing,
Right.
but for a large portion of salespeople, they choose to not be office people. Like that is what they're trying to choose to do, right?
Hmm.
And so I feel like they need to be held to a not a higher standard, but a different standard. And so they're production based,
Right.
period. And so I always have this thing. It's like, listen, if I give you a quota for the year, um, I'll just make something out of it. All right, I want you to sell $1 million worth of products and services that we offer. And he does that on January 2nd, I'm leaving him alone. I'm not trying to make him work a 9 to 5. I gave him a goal. He hit the goal. I'll make a better goal next year.
Right. You
But
can't
that's
keep
on me.
moving the
That's my
bar.
problem.
You can't
Like
keep moving the bar.
yeah, don't change his job or her job just because you feel like you just want more out of this person. When you set the goals, like that's on you.
And if that
And,
person
and
exceeds that goal that you set that early, 9 times out of 10, that person is motivated to keep going. They're not going to say, all
yeah,
right, I'm going to go take a vacation for 6 months. I'll see you next year.
it's the getting more specific. Like and that's not a very obviously common example, but I'd say that just to sort of prove a point. But what you do see is like a guy who like he's hitting his quota, he's doing his stuff, like he's checking the boxes that he's been set out to do, and then you catch him playing golf on a Friday afternoon,
Hmm.
and you want to ream him. What are you doing?
Right.
Like
Why? Yeah.
like it's one thing if he's playing golf and he's not hitting his goals, but if he is hitting his goals, leave him alone.
Yeah.
That's hard for a lot of owners to swallow.
It is because the difficulty that I've seen in office environments that where you have a clear delineation between your back office staff and your field staff is the both sides think whatever they do is like the most important thing and they don't care about the other side the impacts the effects of their actions on the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if my field people are out there selling, they don't care, or they're not even necessary. They should have some visibility and some curiosity as to, well, what is our throughput capacity? Like, can we handle all this business? I can go sell it,
Right.
but if we can't handle it, then I'm going to look like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And and
And that
and
goes
on
to
the
comp setup.
Yeah.
Like again, like it all comes back to your ownership of it.
Right.
Like if you
But
if
but
you've
on
set
the
up a bad system, you've set up a bad system, and you need to own it and fix
right.
it. And so
Yeah.
exactly what your point. Sorry to cut you off here, but like if you're only incentivizing your sales team to just go sell as much as they can, that's fine. But be careful if they do. If you change the incentive structure of like, no, you need to sell it and then you get paid on it after it works through our system. So no, having them have skin in the game of whether it works throughout your entire front office staff and back office staff and the whole thing, like you can actually complete the order and have a successful you know product or service rendered. Like that's
Right.
when they're paid. That changes everything,
Right. Right. Right.
right? And
But
so
then that you but
again, it's on
then
you to set that up.
you risk it's always a balancing act, right? Like you have to figure out how to balance stuff. So if it's based on like the second example that you gave or second scenario
Yeah,
where they get their spiff, their comp after it's worked its way through the back office staff, all the different departments,
yeah,
then you can create some some tension between the field and the back office staff because
sure,
the field's going, why is this taking you so long? Why
yeah,
don't you get this through? And vice versa. If if they're incentivized on the wrong way, from like just sell it and you get paid, and they're not finishing everything that, not getting all the documents that are required. And so it creates a headache for the back office staff going, wait, and that guy's out playing golf. And you're like, there's so much that needs to be done. And you're out there playing golf, screwing around, and it creates tension.
I know I'm a sales guy, but also like some tension. I like tension, frankly. Like I think of that as a positive. And if your sales guys are pushing your back office staff to be more efficient, not always a bad thing. I know it can be. Like I get your point. Like I understand your story, but um, like some of that's really healthy. Like it's helping your entire system work more efficiently.
It is, as long as there's control and monitoring over that. So, you don't want it to get out of hand where you're like, oh, they'll just figure it out.
Yep.
Right. If it becomes a true issue and a crescendo where they won't work with each other, they won't speak to each other
Well,
because,
that again, that's on you,
you know,
right? That's
yeah,
that's on the owners.
right. Right. It's
Uh,
just one of those, it's another one of those monitoring, like, we're talking about setting up, you know, systems and processes. And a lot of times, you're sole, you come up with a business idea and you launch it, bootstrap it and you slowly grow it. So you start to add people to it, but yet you don't have the
yeah, the ten
foresight
thousand foot view of
to
what you're
be able to say, okay, I need to put this system in. It worked when I was just doing it, but now that I got 10
right.
people, it doesn't work that way. And I need to make sure that I've got my system set up to ensure that smooth transition into that growth phase.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, the easiest place to start is see like pressure testing your systems by you doing it.
Hmm.
And if you can make a sale and run it through the back office and like you did all these things uh, to make your initial test runs work, okay, well you can do it, but you know, can you have systems where multiple people? It's scalable essentially, right?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like you have to manage narrative. You have to like, all those things. I mean, that's what, and the better you are at that, I think, speaks to the better health of your company. Um, but understanding where each one of your employees is coming from, and that's sort of where I was getting with the sales guys of like, don't manage the wrong things. Like you're managing out some things of like this isn't necessarily what they signed up for, and you're gonna push people away, and
Hmm.
you're gonna have retention problems and loyalty problem, morale problem, all the things, culture, right? Your culture will all start to suffer just because you're managing the wrong things. And so getting back to the sales force, it's like um, making sure they have the tools to be successful. Uh, and then it's really like I look at it as like it's up to them. This is what their job is, and they're either hitting their marks or they're not. Like I'm not here to micromanage your time.
Right.
Um, this is the job. you know, I don't, you know, there's a certain amount of information that needs to go back and forth, and the more, you know, I think of different versions of sales, but like, you know, with pharmaceutical sales, like it's very common to have, you need to have 10 touch points a day.
Hmm.
And like, and you need to record those, and you need to tell me who they were, and all the things. Like, you're spending more time reporting than you are selling.
Well, that was like back in the day when we sold insurance together.
Yeah,
You know, yeah, how many cold calls are we going on today? How many business cards did you collect?
yeah,
You know,
and
with
you know,
with
I
the
think it's
hopes of a
well,
1% penetration rate.
right. I think some of those things are very well intended, but they end up being a net negative in culture and morale and some of those things if they're handled incorrectly. And what you know, what I mean by that is they're well intended is like, hey, listen, the guys who have been very successful doing this have done X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
and I'm more of the mind to like make sure you have all that information. But if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to force you to do it. I'm going to find somebody else who wants to do it.
Right.
Like, you're just not the right guy to me,
Yeah. And I,
and
and I,
and my
I think
teams understand that, right?
yeah, having to some creativity, in terms of different marketing avenues, right? Like if everybody's out there knocking on a door,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the standard way to sell product X.
We're probably aging ourselves too, because I don't think there's a whole lot that goes actually door to door like we used
Well,
to.
yeah, I mean, well, even if you're just relying on email blasts or your,
Yeah,
robocalls or whatever it is, something that is a volume based, like we just need to have this many touches in order to generate sales interest. I feel like with technology and with the different, as I've gone through and had exposure to a lot of different industries, I've seen a lot of different ways that, the very labor intense way
mm-hmm.
to try and generate sales, and then selling the same product a more efficient way that generates 10 times the revenue in
Yeah,
sales as the labor intense way. It's just you have to recognize, okay, there's a different way to skin the cat. How can I work harder and not, I mean, smarter and not harder?
yeah, absolutely,
The
absolutely.
old way isn't the only way.
Yep, yep. And usually it's cost effective as well. If your business can go that way, it's it's usually a bit of a better option this day and age.
Right, right. You know,
Um,
and it's looking at it from an opportunistic standpoint. We talked about like going to different civic groups or, industry groups or industry trade shows or whatever.
right.
It's a whole lot more effective if you can present at a trade show. You're at a orthopedic conference and you're one of you've somehow gotten in there to be a presenter where you've got a captive audience,
Yeah.
right? I don't have to go meet every single one of these medical professionals. I'm going to talk about this, and then they're going to come to me because they're so blown away by my presentation.
Yeah, it's usually like for lack of better terms, like a sideshow kind of thing. The presenters are like in a medical conference. The presenters are all, very well known, physicians. But
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
have
but at
some
the same,
special
but
technology or something we want to show off, like, hey, we're going to have this function. It'll be here, and you can sign up. It's RSVP, and then all of a sudden, you have an audience that wants to be there, who wants to hear what you had to say, who wants to see what's coming. Like that's your audience.
and that's where the strategic standpoint of I think what we offer, to our clients is comes in because
Yeah,
let's just take and I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I think this is a tangible example of like real life application
yeah,
to how we can help provide perspective to people, that's outside the box. So take your example, right, of,
yep. Of the
it's
sideshow.
well, no, you typically have these well-known, reputable,
Yep.
surgeons that are the presenters. Well, if you make it a focus to establish a great working relationship with that speaker, one of those
Oh, sure.
speakers who's going to push your product, and now he has more influence over this crowd than you do,
Always.
then I mean that's again another perspective or another approach to the sale
Yeah.
is having somebody else sell it for you,
And it doesn't have
right?
to be certain.
That's the best.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's, and, I would push back on that a little bit. Like, I think it's more genuine than that, frankly. Like, it's not that they're pushing, uh, a sale. They're what you hopefully in the best case scenario is they're just sharing their experiences. Like,
Yeah.
and so it's just sharing a success story of a customer. Like,
Well,
let's not
but
make it overly like complex here. Like, it's the same, customer experience story. And no matter what kind of business you're in, like those things are effective.
but
Um,
it's the same thing as
and
what we talked about earlier is selling yourself. So in the same
yeah,
vein, you get that key representative that's not a customer. I mean, that's a customer of yours. That's not an employee or a colleague who loves you and is like telling all his buddies and the people that he works with, like, you got to work with this guy.
yeah,
Like this guy he will make you laugh until your sides hurt. Or you want to talk about hunting. This is a guy that can talk hunting with you all day long, or sports, or whatever the common thread is
yeah,
that you've established that allows that. And it's going to be different for every. You can't use the same approach to everybody, right? You got to
yeah,
listen. Like,
yeah.
what are their interests? Get them talking about themselves.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, there's a million different avenues, but can I switch gears a little bit here? I don't,
Sure, go
just
for it.
because there's something on the list, I want you to bloviate on for a minute
Oh
because
boy.
I'm interested. Effective weekly leadership meetings.
All right. So I am
Curveball.
no, I this is
I'm passionate about this too. I just don't know that I have great answers all the
one of
time.
my pet peeves, and I'll preface this with I have these meetings, um, and I hate them.
We do too. Same.
And but there are certain groups within certain departments within the organization that like them.
A lot.
And
Live for them.
I cannot stand meeting just to meet,
Yeah.
right? And I can't stand meeting for more than 20 or 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I I remember my grandfather was a colonel, or he was a lieutenant colonel at the time, I think, and he was the aide of a three-star general. And this general, you know, apparently however many stars you have is how many aides that are allocated to you. And this general said, "No, I just need one." And so,
Right.
and that was my grandfather. Well, his philosophy on meeting, which I am looking to implement, is anytime they had a meeting, all the chairs in the room had to be removed,
Right.
and everybody stood for the entire meeting because that forced everybody to pay attention. They're not sitting there fidgeting. They're not, doodling, whatever. You're standing up and listening. It's hard to, you know, sort of space out when you got to stand up and everybody's looking at you.
Yeah.
Um, but the whole point of it was we don't want to waste time. We need to be efficient. So if you're going to have a weekly meeting, there needs to be a set agenda and and have it set up. When I was in public accounting, we did have an effective weekly management meeting.
Yeah.
Um, and it was organized in such a way of, you know, it'd be topic A, be client pipeline, collections, in terms of invoices, billing, and any other special topic. And if there was nothing in that subject area, then
You
we
moved on.
skipped it. We said there's
Yep.
nothing new this week. We'll look to update. And sometimes the meeting was 45 minutes long, and sometimes it was 15 minutes long,
Right.
depending on what the content is. Just because you've got to set aside for an hour block of time doesn't mean you need to use it.
Yep.
That and if you're going to make me sit through a meeting, you got to make sure that everybody that is in your meeting is necessary to be in that meeting. And
Right.
if you're going to make me sit in a meeting, then you damn better listen to me,
Yeah.
right? Because if I'm sitting in there and I'm thinking to myself, why the hell am I in here? This has nothing to do with me. And then we start talking about field issues, and I'm going, well, why aren't
I
you
certainly don't
managing
need to be here
it?
now.
Why aren't you managing it this way and that way? And everybody's like, well, stay in your lane. That's not what you're, well, you made me sit in this meeting, so you better listen to me.
Right.
Otherwise, don't have me come to this damn meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Be careful what you ask for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're hard, and I think it's hard not only in structure, but also in like subject matter. Is sort of exactly what you're saying. It's like, uh, you know, I do think that there's certain pieces of information that need to be shared amongst all divisions. Uh, but more likely than not, you have toxic folks in every meeting who want to filibuster, who want to chat and make it a waste of time, and like
Oh,
sometimes it's just very uncomfortable.
I'm very quick
Sometimes,
to cut somebody off and say, we're
yeah,
not talking about that right now. Next.
right, yeah, same. I think that's where I see the biggest issues is like some people are just afraid of making it uncomfortable.
And then the
You can't be.
biggest thing that I have too is, all right, we met. Somebody better be taking notes and
Yeah, have
and
some follow up. There has to be something that happens. Yeah,
distributing that information, and there needs to be takeaways, right? So we
yep,
get done with this meeting, we're wrapping the meeting up. Okay, what are the action items that need to be done before we meet next time? What are the deadlines? What are the expectations? And who's doing what?
yeah.
Because
Being very specific.
if we just spend an hour meeting, number one, I'm already in a pissy mood because you made me sit there for 60 minutes when
Yep.
I lost interest after 20. And then you're sitting there and you're not taking notes, but you've said, I said, when, all right, by, next Friday, do you need to have X, Y, and Z done? And we get in there next Friday and you go, oh, I forgot about that. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
that's a good way for me to punch a hole in the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
That's
my thought
that.
on
That's
meetings.
a wrong button, a wrong seat conversation.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
I think it's key too to have somebody who you always have to have that person who keeps you organized too, right? So if you have a de facto secretary in your
Hmm.
meetings that
Yeah.
can disseminate, the synopsis of this is what we talked about, this is what everybody heard, so that there's no like, oh, I didn't hear you say that last week.
Yeah.
Everything's documented, not in, verbatim, but shorthand
Right.
bullet points of, topic, action item, responsibility, deadline kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference because if you don't document, you can't hold people accountable. And if everybody's not on the same page, it creates some hardships, some difficulties within your organization that are unnecessary because, you know, people start to resent people who aren't quote unquote carrying their weight, right?
Yep.
Like, whoa, you know, I've got all these things to do and nobody else has anything to do, but you don't understand what's been assigned to different people. It becomes that, I deserve to be paid more. I work harder, mentality, which is not good for anybody.
Yeah. 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 I mean, those are selfish people on a team, and that's that's its own issue within and of itself. I mean, um, I would go so far as to say like um, I've based on the type of business, I guess, but in the stuff that I've personally done, I really try to get away from the scheduled meetings as much as you think they're necessary. I prefer a method where the top 2 to 4 folks in an organization have the flexibility to meet on specific topics when necessary.
Well, I mean,
Now, I think it depends on the type of business, right? Sometimes it's great to have a weekly kickoff. Sometimes
I,
it's great to summarize and all the things, but um, I don't know. It
I'll
depends on the
challenge you. I'll challenge you on that. I think across, regardless of your business, establishing set times to meet, that like standing meetings is critical, because what happens if you don't is people don't prioritize it. They may, oh, well, I can't because I'm going to this client, or I can't because I'm out of town, or like if it's on your schedule and it's
Well, that's sort
you
of
knew you've known about it,
that was the
like
asterisk already put in there of like, no, 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 like this is like these are if we call these meetings, these are priorities
right.
kind of
But
things.
but but
But to
it
your
has to
point,
be
it's
it
difficult.
has to be on the calendar, because if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I I'm very much a scheduled person in terms of, all right,
Yes.
I've got
Yeah.
to allocate resources to this, I've got to do this, because if I don't, then I lose track and priorities get jumbled.
Yep.
And and so, I've always I've heard pushback, where I've encouraged or required like regular, say, weekly or biweekly or monthly um, field meetings
Mm-hmm.
with your sales reps. And the normal excuse I hear is, well, we can't do that because everybody's got different schedules, and
No,
they're
you
over
can
at
make a
this
schedule.
they're over at
Um,
this hospital, or they're over at this client, early in the morning, and so 8 o'clock doesn't work, or no, because I've seen pharmaceutical organizations that have 500 sales reps across the nation get on a conference call on a monthly basis,
yeah.
without issue.
Yeah.
Um, so I have a problem with people with allowing the flexibility of, well, just meet whenever if it's a quick huddle, or if there's nothing to talk about, then say, anybody, we don't have anything to discuss this week. We'll follow up next week.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing wrong with canceling an established meeting. All that's going to do is make people happy,
Right.
right? Like, oh, you just freed up my morning.
Yeah.
But but if you call me
I think we're talking about two
today,
different, very different kinds of meetings, right? And so, like, you're talking about like a scheduled like team kind of meeting. I'm talking about like just the need to know folks of you know just sort of your executive team, and a lot of it like the reason I like this, I think most of the time it can be handled in a one-on-one situation.
yeah,
Like I call you, we have a certain topic to discuss every now and then, and it's I would say 1 to 3 times a month is what I would say is like in my experience. There are these issues like, all right, let's bring the whole leadership team in. We need to let everyone know what's going on here, how we're going to play this, how we're going to plan for this, blah blah blah. And that's more of what I'm talking. Like those to me are way more effective than our leadership. Let's just go through the numbers. Like let's just have a meeting for the sake of it. Like so that's almost
right,
like to for leadership folks. Sometimes I feel like that highlights some folks' natural propensity to be a filibuster machine. It highlights the toxicity that can happen. Like sometimes it's best just to be able to have your secretary or scribe or whatever put it on an email, send it to everybody at the beginning of the week, something like that. Like that can take place of a lot of meetings. Like, hey, this is what we want to pass on. This is the information. Um, you know, reply all with any questions just to this small group.
yeah. I mean, there's always naturally stuff that organically has to happen. Like you can't be so rigid in a schedule to say,
Yeah,
well, if you didn't schedule this meeting, then I can't meet with you. Like that doesn't work.
right, right,
That
right.
and I'm not saying that extreme.
No, that's a good point.
I'm there's organic conversations that, where my CEO and my COO and my director of sales all, come in and say, hey, we've got this issue. How do we deal with
Yeah,
this? Okay, we need to
yeah,
meet with this department, and you send out, but it's not, hey, you know, I'm sending out this email and I need everybody there in 15 minutes.
yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a code red, okay, this is what's going on,
Right.
but you can't you can't assume that everybody has the same availability as you and throw it on and be like, well, you said we need to be flexible to meet whenever.
Yeah.
And
No.
so I gave you 30 minutes heads up, or even with me, like it's got to be more than 24 hours, unless
Yeah.
it's, something that like it's a walk-in meeting. Like, hey, can you put down what you're doing right now? Because we need this is. But these are topic specific. This isn't an
Yeah.
opportunity to have a meeting and then let everybody talk about all their, you know, do all their bitching and griping about, well, I got this problem with Joe over here. It's like, no, no, no. We called this for a specific meeting. We'll have another meeting to address your concerns, but stay on topic, make it efficient, and go execute.
Yeah. Weekly team meetings, I appreciate. I think depending on your setup, again, I feel like I preface everything I say with that. I apologize, but geography suited. Like if you have a sales team, for example, who's all in the same city, I think it's great to have Wednesday afternoon check-ins or Monday morning kickoff or whatever.
Hmm.
However you want to do it. I would encourage you. What I found to be successful is like if you're doing them weekly, maybe one time a week, make your Wednesday afternoon, catch check up meeting. Let it be a happy hour.
Yeah.
Let it be something fun. It doesn't need to be every time, but like it doesn't all have to be a bore. It doesn't all have to
No,
be,
no, but
you
that
know,
goes back to the whole premise of, why we do what we do is to help people make their businesses fun again, right? Like
yeah,
it doesn't have to be so rigid and so boring, like you said. Make it exciting. Like do something to spice it up. Most people are like, I'm going to go work my job, and then I don't want anything to do with my job when I'm not working.
yeah,
So I'm not going to happy hours, or I'm not going to company parties, or I'm not doing all this. So you have to be mindful of that mentality too. So maybe mix it up and say, you know what, we're gonna have a half day today, guys. Um,
yep,
you know, let's meet at a barbecue joint and have some beers and some wings, and then we'll call it a day.
right,
And that makes
yeah.
people excited and be like, oh, okay, something new.
And I think the common thread between our first topic and this topic is really just sort of setting your goals and creating a system that works for your team, right? But you have to have the defined objective first before you can figure out which version is going to work best for you.
Yep. And as your company
And it,
evolves, so should that perspective.
yeah, and your defined objectives are not always as easy as you may think to define
Yeah.
and to identify, right? And so, you know, we see a lot of times the thought of like, no, we just need a weekly meeting. Okay, what are your objectives? I
Hmm.
just want everyone to know this. Okay, put it in an email.
Yeah.
Right,
We don't need to meet for something that,
right,
yeah.
right. Um, or no, like I need to have a Salesforce. Why? Like sometimes it's that drastic.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
because everyone else has a Salesforce. Okay, well, let's see what we actually need. Let's define our objectives. Like let's actually identify exactly what we need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You really do have to spend some time engineering your systems and processes. And that goes into not just, creating the car, but the parts that go into the engine that make the car work, right? You can't
Yeah.
just say, well, I want to drive the car without
Mm-hmm.
knowing how fast you want it to go and what makes it go and all that stuff. And those are the mechanics that you really have to beat up on a regular basis and evaluate, not just one time when you first start it, but a continuous evaluation of those elements. And a lot of times that's where it's really advantageous to bring in an outside party like a
Yep.
consultant, um, to say, okay, can you look at this element? I feel like I'm a little stagnant in this area. I need a fresh perspective, fresh set of eyes. Um,
Yeah.
and it can really, like, small things like that. And it doesn't have to be a big engagement. It could just be a small, you know,
Yeah.
1 2 day type engagement. Um, and then you establish that working relationship with that client that starts to learn and understand your business over time. And it's a lot easier for them to come in with different perspectives, and it's quick and it becomes efficient versus pick up, you know, put down, and I'm working with a different person every time.
Yeah. Turning an entire business over and shaking it all out and
Yeah.
all the thing. Right. It doesn't have to be that
Yeah.
crazy. It also makes me think of that old story. I don't know if you've ever heard this. So U.S. auto manufacturers went over to Japan to watch how they build a car, and like the first thing they saw was like the doors going into a car, and like they all fit just perfectly as soon as they attached them. They're like, whoa, how'd you do that? Because every time we put a door on, we have to like finagle it and like push it in and readjust things. And they're like, well, we set the systems up. Like we designed the entire car, we designed the machines around it. Like we know that these doors are going to fit perfectly every time we strap them in. And you're like, huh? Like that's sort of what I think of. Is like, you know, if you planned your entire system from the 10,000 foot view, it should work like that.
Yeah.
It should be that predictable.
Yep.
There should be no adjustments on the back end,
Yeah.
right? And so that's the goal.
For sure. For
It's a
sure.
moving target.
Well, I think we had a good discussion today.
Yeah, it's fun.
Hopefully we entertain somebody and somebody learned something. Um, but they can always
I
reach
did.
out. They can always reach out if they want to hear more or give us some ideas or whatever the case may be. But
Love it.
I think we will catch you on the flip side, right?
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
All right. See you
Very good.
later.